waiting for everybody to join.
Fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is it time for Ethan to take one too?
Not yet, because Ethan is at this moment observing and not yet a board member or anything.
Keep that away from me.
But Celia, that's comfortable for you to back up the minutes onto one of those?
I haven't tried, but I've worked with, I think I've worked with this before.
Why would we do that and not just put it on Google Drive?
We're doing everything. So between having had an earthquake and an eclipse, who knows what's gonna happen next? So we'll have a hard, you know.
I just
not a
want to
hard
put
copy
the only
paper.
copy on a thumb drive because.
No, not the only copy. It'll also
Yeah.
be in a digital form. Right, that's not the only thing, no. That's just,
My rule is that back up every price, so it's worth
right,
it.
so. And Celia, feel free to go back as far as you have minutes and put them on there. You should have plenty of room. Okay, and if you need help in the tech department, I'm sure we can provide a person who can help you, whether me or somebody else. I'm not hugely tech savvy, but I know how to do that.
So everyone knows the camera angle seems to get from Ethan to that chair.
Okay.
So the three of us are not on camera.
I think Celia's that.
If anybody wants to move, go ahead. The only one who is not present or accounted for is Mary, so I think we should begin. I have heard from Herb, who is not joining us tonight. Because we do have a lot to do, like we always do. I propose that we convene at 7:39. We can round up to 7:40. I'm all right with that. Consent calendar, we've all seen the minutes, the treasurer's report and the BAIP report. I shouldn't say we've all seen them, we've all received them, I believe. So does anybody have any corrections, comments, suggestions? You're welcome, don't worry. On either any of those documents.
May I add that I believe that Kamal provided the treasury report for February as well as for March.
Yes.
She said she would, and she did.
Okay, and I did not distribute it, but I have it.
It's on, well, I got it when I opened up the Excel file. I saw
They were
it.
both in there.
They were both in. there.
Okay, so March included February.
Mhm.
Great,
Yeah, they're separate tabs in the same spreadsheet.
right. It was called March, but it included both.
Want to introduce
Yes, thank you.
officially.
Thank you for pointing that out, Celia. Okay, so before we go ahead with consent calendar, let me rewind a little bit and introduce, this is Ethan Stein, who has volunteered to be our co-treasurer. Gary and I have met with him, but we wanted to have him here in front of the rest of the board before we made any kind of decisions on our own. So you can all see him in the flesh. And here he is. Ethan lives in the Broadmoor and has lived. How long in the neighborhood? You told me and I forgot.
Going on 3 years.
3 years in the neighborhood. Is finishing up a degree in, it's an MBA, at Columbia.
University of Illinois.
Oh, right, it's
Online.
it's online. It's Shoria who's just recently finished at Columbia.
Yes.
Oh, you're with us, Shoria. Hi.
Hi, I am.
Hello, we'll get to you in a moment. And Gary and I, before we get to the topic, I'll just say that Gary and I had what I thought was a very productive, satisfactory, confidence building meeting with Ethan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he actually has some knowledge he brings to the business and accounting and all the rest of that stuff, so but I'm very pleased, since I bring nothing, none of that.
So we will discuss Ethan more in front of him, not behind his back, when we get to the annual meeting discussion. Going back to the consent calendar, if no one has anything to say about the minutes or the February and or March treasurer's report that were together in that one document, or the BAIP report. I,
I move to accept them.
Second.
any opposed? Okay, that's done. Old business, spring fundraiser update. Shoria, since you're with us digitally or virtually, I forget what all the terminology should be. Why don't you take the floor and give us a brief recap of where we're at on the, it's had various names over the years, yard sale, spring bazaar, block party.
Yeah, so I guess last time when we met, we finished up all the uploading of the documents, I believe. And since then, I have completed sending out the emails, letting everyone know about the vendor agreement, and also letting them know that they need to submit a fee for the table. So that is done, and I have heard back from about 4 to 5 vendors that they have submitted the fee and they have submitted the form. So I just don't know how to access that, but can someone see and confirm that they've received the fee from these vendors?
Harry, have you?
I picked up the mail for.
Okay, Gary hasn't been to the post office for about a week.
Maybe.
Okay,
So next time you go, please send an email if,
Yeah, I will.
or you know what, Shoria, if you know the names of the people who Gary should be looking out for checks from.
yeah, I can do that.
Email that to Gary so he knows what he's looking for.
Yep, I will. And I'm planning to now, like, since everyone will be sending in their confirmations and their checks, I'm planning on maintaining an Excel spreadsheet so that later on when we assign the tables, we wouldn't have any issues with that. So that is my next plan of action.
So, sorry, what, the last we met with you, we were talking about who was gonna be the vendor coordinator, and we now know that Lynn is unable to do it.
Okay,
So, there was another woman, Elizabeth. Did-
okay.
Have you contacted her? or-
No, I have not. I was not sure if you were in talks with her already, so I didn't want to like double email her about it. But
Okay.
if you want me to go ahead and contact her, I can do that like this week. It's only Tuesday, so I can contact her tomorrow.
Okay.
I think that would be great because
Yeah.
there'll be less work for you.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
And then another question I had for you is, you were going to contact the woman in the permits department to make sure we could amend our application. Were you able to reach her?
Oh, I completely forgot about that. So I am sorry. I did not do that. I can also write that down in my to-do. So I will do that again tomorrow.
Okay, if you have any questions about it or issues, let me know.
Yeah, okay. I will. I mean, I don't foresee any issues. I will make sure to contact her as soon as possible so that we don't have any last minute things to do.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask, who are the vendors and how are they selected, and are they just paying a fee and they come out? And where I'm going with this is I have an idea and I'm wondering if it might be possible. And I'm wondering if it should go through one or more of the vendors, or if it's something that we might find someone to do, which is that there are probably a lot of people who have stuff in their apartments that they'd be happy to get rid of. And I'm wondering if there's a way to just have them have a collection, and whatever sales of that stuff are made, the money goes to the block association.
I can speak to that,
Okay.
that used to be a part of the event. It was the rummage
Yeah.
sale that we took donations from the community
Mhm.
and sold, and the proceeds we kept.
Were you left
when-
with too much crap at the end?
There are many hurdles to this. One, all the stuff has to be transported. Well, first it has to be donated in advance so it can be sorted and you can figure out what's saleable and what's trash and what's not
Yeah.
even bought. Then it has to go from that donation point over to the event. Then it has to, after the day is over, all the leftovers have to be dispensed with. So it does require a lot of effort.
Yeah,
And it's not to say that we wouldn't ever do it again, but since this is the first time we're doing this since 2019, and we don't have a ton of people volunteering so far, we
yeah,
did not include that as part of the events.
I remember, it was a great idea because if you didn't wanna, or couldn't sit at your own table, you could drop your stuff off, and I did it one year, just a few things, not a lot. So maybe in the future we'll go back to it, but I think the fear of what's left is a
yeah.
fear.
It's not just a conceptual fear. I was the drop off point. and
Yeah.
The amount of stuff was a lot. Most of it, I have to say, was saleable. Fairly little of it was like, what are they thinking? But it did take, I have a station wagon, and it took at least one trip down to Housing Works at the end of the day.
Mm.
So that means loading it into the car, having an extra person to
Yeah.
stay with the car while it's being unloaded. I think it might have been 2 trips.
Yeah.
It
Is
was,
there any way that one of the vendors might accept stuff just during the day and donate some of the proceeds, or is that not something that?
don't know.
I don't know,
And I suppose once we have a vendor list,
Yeah,
we could,
if it's someone you know,
Email them.
you could make a deal with somebody you know to,
'cause I think years ago I had an extra kid's bike and I just brought it out. Said,
yeah,
you want to sell this?
right.
yeah, I
As
think
long as you
people can
promise to
do
take it
that.
back, that might be
Yeah,
the
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 bike
thing
would
that
sell.
makes a difference. So the vendors are local. I mean, there's an
Okay.
incentive for really local vendors because it's cheaper for them.
yeah,
And they're not commercial, so it's
It's
basically,
not the street fair vendors. on
Okay.
Right.
Broadway,
there's
yes.
no tube socks, it's not like that. And
Yeah.
that's part of our permit depends on it being that way.
Mhm.
So that's your answer about who the vendors are.
Shoria? Are you still with us, Shoria?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I put myself on mute afterwards.
Okay.
That's
Do you have any additional concerns, questions, topics that we should cover at this time?
I do not. I don't think so. No. Because I feel like the next step would be to do these things. First would be to contact the person to change your questionnaire. And the second one would be to contact Elizabeth, I believe, right?
Right, and if you can, from your list of volunteers, identify somebody who will take care of publicizing that we're having the event through, let's say, is it neighbor, what's it called? The
Next door.
next door or Craigslist. Those are important tools to use to get more vendors. Obviously, if we have 4 or 5 vendors, that's not enough. And we
Right.
don't want to rely only on the list of previous vendors. So
Yeah.
get some publicity beyond our immediate email list would be a good thing.
I just had a question. How did you publicize it in the past to get all the vendors?
I believe a guy named Terrence Hanrahan did it one year, and I'm happy to put you in touch with him. I
Okay.
don't know if he's willing to do it,
Okay.
or if he'll just tell you how he did it.
Yeah, I just want
But I
to know.
believe he just, posted that there are areas, for instance, in Craigslist where you can post an event like this.
Got it. Okay.
And I think the same thing with, what's the name?
Next door.
Next door.
Like
Why
in a
can I
next
not
door.
remember that?
But,
Um,
my question is, are you talking about publicity to get vendors? or
Yes.
Publicity about the event? You're talking about to get.
To get the vendors.
So we want it soon.
Yes,
And I don't know if I told you, Sharia, but I did ask the West 104th Street Block
Mhm.
Association to put it in their newsletter, and they said
Okay.
they would.
Okay.
And the AIP also said they would put it in their quarterly newsletter, which comes out in early June, I think.
Okay, okay.
But that's
Oh.
more about, I mean, by then it will be kind
Yeah.
of late for the vendors.
I will send an email to both you and Terrence and we'll see if maybe he'll just take care of it or if he can at least give you some information. And in the list of potential volunteers, you might find somebody who's willing to do that.
Okay, sounds good. And as we are speaking, I just finished sending out the email, well, not the email, the correspondence for changing our answers to some of the questions in the questionnaire for the permit. So that is also checked off now.
Great.
Are we gonna do a raffle of some kind where we sell tickets and,
We usually do.
you know,
The prizes could be old crap that people have in their apartments.
The past few years, we've split the money raised, so, and that seems to be a popular option. So we will need to set up a schedule of who's selling tickets and when and where, but we don't need to do that tonight. But yeah, that'll be coming up in the next wave of, so what are we doing? And we'll go forward. Next on the agenda, Shoria, you're welcome to stay. If you prefer not to, we understand that you can
Yeah,
use your
I'll
time on our
stay
behalf
for,
in another way.
yeah, I'll stay for another half an hour and then I might have to drop.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, next agenda item, co-treasurer volunteer. That's Ethan, who I introduced earlier. I don't know if we have a procedure beyond what we already included in our bylaws for making this decision, you know, that yes, we need to. We want the co-treasurer to be a board member, I think, for all of our sense of comfort and confidence and trust. Ethan is new to us. And one of the things Gary and I discussed was letting him get his feet on the ground and see how we work and make sure that he's happy with the arrangement before we start monkeying around with bank accounts or anything, because that was just so much work. So do we just go ahead and?
Well, the question is, so we're coming up to an election, right?
Right,
So and Kamal is,
leave it,
yes, but she's nominally still on the board now.
correct.
So would the best thing be just to add him to the slate and voted him in with anyone else?
That's,
I think so.
is that our
Yeah.
procedure? Or
Yeah,
do we
That's-
need
we're talking
any
about-
additional discussion as a board? You know, our bylaws say that for somebody to get on the slate, that person needs to be, I'll say vetted and supported by 2 board members. And the meeting that Gary and I had with Ethan, I think counts as vetting.
Yeah.
And we both agree that we would support Ethan. So, you know, as far as the nominating him to be included on the slate, I think we're covered. Everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Anybody on the Zoom have anything to say? Is anybody raising their hand? Rich?
No.
Okay. So you will be
So-
included on our slate. As you can with Kamal, I was reading those emails, even though I didn't pay careful attention to them, as you can, she will bring you up to speed on how to do what it is that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And among us will make for a smooth transition.
sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you. Yeah,
thank you. Glad to have you.
happy to be here. Yeah.
I should know this, but I forget what our bylaws said about the number of people on the board. And
A minimum
so,
of 3.
We're allowed
so
to
it's just a
change it.
minimum, okay. And is everyone continuing or are people?
We'll get to that in the
Okay.
annual meeting in a minute.
But also Kamal's going off, so he would replace Kamal,
Yeah.
so there wouldn't be an issue there.
Okay. Moving along, honoring Cynthia. Amy reported to me earlier today that we're up to, I think it's $4,100 and some. Our target was 5. Because the Block Association has not made a contribution yet, I am inclined to propose that we as an organization honor Cynthia's many, many years of participation, not only as chair, but she was on the board for a long time. Even before she agreed to be conscripted as chair for 1 year, that she stayed for a lot longer than that. So I would like to make a motion that we allocate $1,000 from our reserves and donate it to the Riverside Park Fund, if that's what they're called, in honor of Cynthia, which will meet our goal, and we can go ahead with this project.
I second.
Would anybody like to discuss this further before we go to voting? You look perplexed.
I agree. I'm wondering if there are any restraints on how we can use the money. And
Well, we can give money to other charitable organizations.
And we
And
do
that's-
historically,
that's-
Okay.
We have.
And we have given to this one
they
every
include
year.
this one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
and we
Right.
give to the Broadmoor Malls, and we've
Mhm.
given to
Yeah.
lots of things.
And we certainly have the resources to do it. I mean, it's not an issue.
great.
So,
Hold on, Celia.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have anything?
Does that mean that donations are now closed if this is approved, or can people continue to make donations in
People can-
Cynthia's name?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't think that
They
there's
won't
any
take down
way to
money.
go wrong being generous to the Riverside Park Fund.
So I think what we're doing on it is that we're all giving the money, our individual contributions to the Riverside Park, which is a 501c3, and that means that less costly, and we're not giving it to our organization
No.
and then giving it.
No, everybody
our
who
individual
donated,
ones.
donated directly to Riverside Park.
but we are, as an organization,
We're-
giving-
Also
right.
donating.
So it didn't go through us, other than we gave them the information.
You mean the other monies,
Right,
Right.
right,
but this money did.
yes,
Will come from
Yeah.
us and go to them.
right.
Yep.
Any further discussion
No,
of
I
this?
vote in favor.
Let's have a vote. People
Yep.
on Zoom, please get ready to weigh in either with a raised hand or holler at Rich or something like that. All those in favor of the Block Association making $1,000 donation to Riverside Park in Cynthia's memory, please raise your hand. Or say aye, or
Hi, this is
Aye.
Peter. I'm an I.
okay, Ginger,
Aye.
okay?
Oh, wow, am
Aye.
I supposed to, I'm recording this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Sure, yeah.
She's not a board member.
She's not, okay.
Yet.
Yeah. Hi, guys. You were calling out my name.
Okay.
Just that, I was wondering if you would be voting, but I'm informed that you're not.
You're
Okay.
not yet a
Oh.
board member.
Yeah,
and
no,
have Not
no.
yet indicated your desire to be one, so we're not gonna strong arm you just yet.
I will think about it. So,
Okay, thank you.
So Gary would write a check and send it the same way,
The way you did your personal contribution.
and then as soon as I get the word from Nicole. Should we talk about the next part?
No.
Okay,
You can talk about it and how it
right.
will happen.
So I asked her today what the process would be, and she said, at some point, we could take, so whoever's interested could take a walk in the park and figure out which bench we would like to pick. It has to be an existing bench, but one that doesn't already have a plaque on it. And then it takes a couple months, it sounds like, for them, we have to figure out exactly what we want the engraving to say. So that's something we should work
We will
out.
do, yes.
And then a couple months, I think she said 6 to 8 weeks before it would be ready, and then we can plan some kind of event for people, you know, certainly all the people who donated and anyone in the Block Association was.
Right, including 3 parks and 104th and the AIP. I want to make sure that everybody who participated knows that they're welcome to attend the event in the park.
Right.
Now in person.
Time traveling, it's just
Time-
astounding.
One thing I do want to mention, just from what I know anecdotally, but you guys probably know better, is she was an avid bird watcher and she lived up here. So my hope would be the bench would be somewhere near Third Street and maybe an area where there a lot of birds are. Just an idea. but-
Everywhere in the park, there are birds everywhere. An amateur, less avid than she was.
So
And you take a walk in the park and
there's no one little place where they.
I don't think so. There are certain trees that periodically, the hawks tend to like, you know, this year it'll be here, but next year it'll be there, but it's not a consistent. I think that's something we each can do as we're walking around in the park, is take note. If you see a bench that you think would be a good candidate, please make a note of its location, maybe take a picture of it or something, so we know where it is, and that way we can choose appropriately. And yes, we will work on the text of the engraving, and my feeling is that this is an event that we have in the fall, because there's just too much scatter of people over the summer. But it sounds like timeline wise, that's not, you know, terribly later than it could be.
Right.
It may be a little slow on the timetable, but not,
But easier for people to schedule.
yeah.
I'm assuming we'll contact her family and see if they want to come, and that may dictate when it is. Right.
Oh, I just want to be clear on this. Am I supposed to record the number of votes? Could I just say it was approved? I don't have to give numbers. Okay, good.
But since nobody said no, that should be easy to figure that
Okay.
out. All right,
Is
good.
there, like, should we just have numbers? I know the community board always did, like, why not say,
This protocol stuff is not my strong suit, so anybody who knows.
I don't
How
know if
it's
it's
supposed
official
to be.
protocol, but it seems like we might as well.
Okay.
Community board is an agency. Are we an agency?
I hope not.
But regardless, it's a good practice to,
Fine.
and it was
So-
unanimous, so
There
we might
was
as well reflect
unanimous, and
that.
the only one who's not on, the only board member who was not available to vote is Mary and Herb.
What about Kamal?
All right, come on.
So
Well,
somebody
we
else
could
to
just say
come on.
6-0, and we're good.
It's 6, right?
I think so.
6, 7, 8. No, 7. Eddie,
Oh,
8.
7, all right, yeah.
Right. Okay, next item, Columbus Amsterdam bid food truck event. I mentioned this at the last meeting. I had a long talk with Steve Zirinsky. They have set a date for Thursday, June 6th. As the event, they're working on sponsorship, they're doing a flyer. I've sent them our logo to use on the flyer as a partial sponsor of it. They will keep us posted on what they need from us, if anything. He and I discussed how the revenues would be apportioned. And the main thing they need is publicity. So that brings us to a question. I told him we could certainly send it out through our email list. We can certainly hang up some flyers. But the date of it is Thursday, June 6th, which will be on the very, very, very beginning of our next newsletter distribution. And if we really want to get the word out, it should be in the next newsletter. So my question is, do we feel that this is an important enough event to publicize that we push the timetable for the next newsletter a little sooner rather than a little later, so that we can use it to publicize the Bloomingdale Bites, that's what they're calling it, event, which also would serve our own purposes because it gives readers more time in terms of additional vendor sales for the event and or people knowing about it and or getting volunteers to help with it. It seems to me in this case that even though it may be less convenient for the newsletter staff to get it done a little sooner rather than a little later, it would be a good thing to do.
How much money do we stand to get from this? What was,
Nobody really knows because it's never happened
but what's
before.
the rev share?
It'll be based somehow on how many people come from each source of the publicity. They're going to have somebody who's taking the money, record, are you 104th Street? Are you BAIP? Are you 102nd Street? Where the person actually came from. And then it'll get apportioned according to the
So
attendance.
it's not necessarily where you live, because you could have heard about it through BAIP, so that's the name you give as opposed to.
Right, and if somebody says, well, I heard about it through BAIP, but I live within 102nd, 103rd, they'll just figure it out.
So does this disrupt your process of getting the newsletter?
It makes it necessary to do it a little sooner rather than a little later.
Can
So
we
why
put-
don't we send, did this go out, this announcement go out?
Yes,
Uh,
that would,
by
email,
email?
yes.
So why don't we do another emailing, which has, that and the two events.
Well, we definitely would have,
We would definitely do an email, and it's
Right.
too far away to do an email now for an
No.
event in June.
No, but for our event that we're doing, what's?
The yard
block party?
sale.
The yard sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will be doing more emails for that. Yes,
And what's the date on that?
June 15th.
So it's right near.
The thing is, the emails don't get to as many households as the paper.
Well, that's sure, but.
Oh, we'll definitely do that, definitely. we'll
That's
do that
happening
anyway.
Why don't we
Yeah.
just put the two of them together and say two great events? in
Yes,
June,
yeah. we
Right.
will.
Coming up and,
We
and
will.
it could be a headline of that
Yeah.
nature in the newsletter as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
But the only way that we get under every single door into every
Yeah.
single home is the hard copy of the newsletter.
What is,
There,
what?
there
dates?
are, there are actually three. There is also Make Music New York is on Friday, the 21st.
Right, which
so-
we would be mentioning in our newsletter.
Yeah,
Right.
so it'd be
Right.
a trifecta of
So,
wonderful
Right.
things.
what date? would
So
we have to target?
ordinarily, I would be aiming to get the newsletter distributed right around June's first, second. That's the first weekend in June. Sometimes we push it a little bit and it's more like the second weekend. But in this case, the weekend before is Memorial Day
Memorial Day.
weekend. So I think if we really want to get it out, we have to aim for distribution the weekend of May 24th through 6th.
Which is Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, right, that's Memorial Day weekend, right?
Right.
So reasonably, I mean, we can get it to Best Buy by then, but it probably. won't
Right, and then it
distribute
would get
until
distributed the
sometime in
next
the
week.
next week.
Right, and depending on Eliza's availability, will determine when she brings them around. If she's in town that weekend, she'll do it that weekend, and if not, she'll do it when she's back. So does anybody have anything they'd like to contribute on the topic of, do we accelerate the schedule?
More work for you, so.
It's the same amount of work, it's just a little sooner instead of a little
Yeah.
later.
It
Okay.
means that, are you
Pressure.
writing anything for us this issue?
Uh,
It's more work for you because you have to get it done.
It means we have to get the lineup out and the
I'm
deadline.
sure I
out.
can. I'll do it. I'll do it if you'll do it. I think it'd be a nice.
It
It
seems
makes
worth
sense
doing.
to me.
Yeah.
The only thing that worries me is we can rush to get it done and then the distribution doesn't happen because of Memorial Day weekend, so. Can she ever distribute during the week?
Yeah,
or- oh,
often she
can.
does.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as long as she gets heads up too,
Yes,
you know.
I'll be sending out the lineup and letting Eliza know that it's coming sooner rather than later.
So we know that Memorial Day weekend is the 25th, 26th, and 27th of May.
We do know that.
Okay, so this is This is the following weekend.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
The
well,
event
the
is
event is June.
2
6th.
weeks.
yes, the publicity, I mean,
Yeah.
newsletter.
Right, but.
We're hoping to have it done and ready to distribute for Memorial Day weekend. And if it can't be over the weekend, it'll be in the ensuing next couple days, rather than waiting till either the following weekend or the one after that, which is what we would normally do.
Now I understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I've been told that I don't always express myself as clearly as.
Understood you.
I don't know.
I have something else coming up around that time, but it won't affect this.
Um. Okay, annual meeting. You saw in my email that I had included a draft agenda. Yes, we have a nice flyer that Ariana created.
Roughly.
She even gave us choices of which layouts we liked. It's gone to everybody in the big buildings to hang. It's gone, my husband went around today and hung some up in the smaller building vestibules that don't have locked doors. I brought extras in case anybody wants to, have a look. Posted without having to print it. This says no connection. But. Rich, do we know how I can hook up to a Wi-Fi here? Oh, Mount Sinai, yes.
Well, there's the Wi-Fi. I'd have to figure out the password.
Right, I have other options, it's okay.
You want one more email to go out as a reminder about this? Or do you think we've saturated?
I would send another one. Maybe Friday or Sunday,
But not Saturday.
right? Because I think on Saturday, it's the weekend, nobody's paying attention. On
Okay.
Friday, people are still paying attention, and on Sunday night, they'll pay attention
All
to
right, so
the
either do
upcoming.
Friday morning or Sunday night.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is my thought. All right, now I see the agenda, so, I will make a few introductory remarks and introduce Sean. I have confirmed with his office that he is on board, and prepared to talk about the, trash issues. And assuming he is there on time, he will be our first speaker. When he's done and we've taken a little bit of questions from the audience, if there are any, which of course there will be, we'll move on to a year in review, which I will present very briefly. Then next will be the presentation of the 2023 financial report and the 2024 budget. So are you prepared to do the 23 financial report?
I don't think you could do it, sure, yeah.
That would be great.
Mhm.
And where do we stand with your newest draft of,
I have a copy here. A couple of people gave me responses and I changed it to reflect that. We're in a situation where we haven't discussed a number of these things, so it's, do you want to,
now's the time.
you want to talk about them?
Yep.
We don't have to decide on all of these things. We just have to decide that we're willing to go public with this as a possibility
Correct.
for the next year. I mean, my feeling about it is what we want to do is just want to give them a sense of what the agenda is for the coming year of things, new initiatives, as well as the continuation of things that we're doing now. I don't think we're going to get into a lot of detail of how much it's going to cost for each of these things. In fact, I don't think we want to talk about the costs because in many of them, we don't have, we don't know how much it's actually gonna cost. But what we want is them to have a sense of the, the initiatives that we want to take. And I think we should spotlight one of them. I think we should spotlight the issue of cleaning the streets.
Okay. Until we've had a chance to really dig into that as a board, I would still like to keep that as a possible,
Yeah,
not as an indication that we are going ahead.
we won't be adopting it until next month anyway.
Right.
So, but we should get people's feedback in terms of what they're doing. And
People in attendance.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
attendance, yeah, and I would also say that it would be good if actually if Peter could give about 10 minutes on that.
I'd be happy to.
And,
I circulated late a little discussion of the one pager of what's on the table.
So when you are presenting the proposed budget for that item, what you propose is to turn it over to Peter to talk about that item.
About the community.
So the numbers that you put there, were those real numbers or was that?
as well, they're as real as we can make them without knowing what's going into them.
Right.
And that's,
I mean specifically for the cleanup.
well, we did a rough calculation.
We did a rough
Yeah.
calculation based on
Yeah.
discussions with Ray and they.
So you did speak to Ray.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And also,
I wouldn't want that to come out as a surprise to him after the
No,
fact.
he was extremely enthusiastic
Good.
because they encourage, of course, the residents to participate as volunteers, but if they can get them some payment as, then that's very, very appreciated.
Yeah.
That they have some resources to do that.
Good.
but I want to just, so that we all have the same information, Peter and I have talked about this a little bit. And, we're also going to joint venture this with the Amsterdam, BID.
With the Columbus Amsterdam bid,
Yeah.
which tomorrow we should be, they're going to be signing on as the fiscal sponsors for Park Department 1 and 3.
Mhm.
So, and they also, so that means that their staff, which already has relationships with sanitation and DOT and all of these, can participate in the cleanup as well in the supervision, and they also have equipment, all the cleaning equipment necessary to do that.
And they can also look after the payments to
Yes,
to them. We'll give.
So we, the
We'll get-
block association, would be contributing to the bid, which would then take care of the payments.
you could do it that way, or you could do it directly to the halfway house here.
Well, either way, but.
Is there an advantage because they're tax deductible or not?
They're both tax deductible.
Okay, so
The
The only
issue
thing-
here is,
No, the issue here is that
yeah,
tax exempt. The issue here is that if we give it to this organization,
it goes to
it
Mount
goes
Sinai.
to Mount Sinai and they oversee it. And,
okay, so
So
we know what we're gonna do.
the
that's why we have to
Yeah.
go through.
Right.
Daniel at the bid is happy to make sure that it gets into the hands of the people who actually do the work.
Got
So
it.
that's the advantage there.
So the employer would be the bid,
The bid,
neither Park to Park nor the block
That's
association.
correct.
That's
They're not really employees. We shouldn't use that word. They're, contract, it's like a
Contractors.
freelancer. They're
Okay.
contractors. Yeah.
And I think that's a good idea. The other thing we should be clear about too and be okay about is since we're doing it jointly with the bid, we're gonna add 2 more blocks to this. Right, to add the block from for this initiative for the block from Broadway to Amsterdam. And both 102 and 103. They are joint venturing in this financially as well, so, they're actually, gonna be paying for, that more than paying for that.
So which of the two blocks?
I'm looking at the
It's-
proposed budget and I see 3 blocks of 102 and 103.
That's right.
So this is
So what
not,
are those 3 blocks?
It's the block association blocks,
All 4 of them?
all 4 of them, plus the one additional.
103 between Broadway and Amsterdam.
That's correct, 103 and 102,
Both 102.
both 102 and 1.
so this is not specifically for the hugs, it's in general.
It's for the entire, it's not, it's the curb to curb cleaning, it's tree bed maintenance for all the tree beds that are not maintained by buildings, all of them.
Okay,
Which is about half of the tree beds in the area are not maintained by buildings and are
Right.
kind of neglected.
And it says 1 block of West End Avenue and RSD.
Yes.
That's between 102 and 103.
That's correct, right.
On both avenues.
Right. And also the public space at the Broadway Mall crossing between, in the middle of Broadway, because that sometimes gets kind of funky as well. I
Yes.
see,
Oh.
I see heads nodding.
okay, I know what you're writing for the newsletter.
Okay,
Right,
oh, that's great.
yeah,
Okay, wonderful.
But
I have a
I'll
great
be-
picture of Ray. Too.
I won't go into a lot of detail on some of the ones here that are more internal ones. I mean, the question of whether, you want me to say that we're looking for an assistant, to work with you at least for a period of next year to help organize the materials and files and also to help you out in organizing meetings or other such things.
I personally do not want that to be, and I could be convinced otherwise, but it rubs me the wrong way to have a paid person. After 40 years of the Block Association, my participation in the Block
Yeah.
Association being entirely volunteer based and being aware that BAIP does everything it does volunteer based as far as I know. Although I'll be the first one in my personal life to hire somebody to take care of something, I don't feel that way about the Block Association. So I am reluctant.
could we,
Can I give a thought on that?
yeah,
Which is, personally the opposite, like I do everything myself. I did a consulting project years ago for the National Society for Black Engineers, which is this wonderful organization. It was started by students. And they kept their structure that students were responsible for everything. They actually did hire a paid staff. They kept students responsible. And I think there's, organizations can just function better if you have paid staff. We're all volunteers and none of us has enough time to really devote to what the Block Association could be. And if the money is there and it could make the block better and serve the purpose, we're willing to pay a security guard. And like a big part of our reason for being here is that we paid a security guard to walk the streets.
Mhm.
If we could pay someone that could make the blocks better in a way that none of us has time or inclination to do, why not? And just because we have a history of doing something a certain way doesn't
Doesn't mean
mean,
we always have to do it
Yeah.
that way.
I would also add that this is a temporary, this is like if there's a time
A
limit
project
to it,
based.
and it's something young people can do very easily,
Mhm.
and some of the rest of us can't.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree. On the
We-
longer,
We're gonna get serious about getting all of our stuff into, a Google.
Mhm.
set of
Right.
programs
Is this
and all
on
the rest of
YouTube?
That stuff, it's,
Is what
This
I'm,
discussion,
yes, we're being live streamed, right, Rich?
yes.
And
everybody
we're
okay
recorded.
with that?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm okay with it too.
I haven't said anything I regret yet. I understand both positions, and yes, there are times when you can't keep doing things the way you've always done it. As I've said before, I would like to see all of these initiatives as possible. and make it very clear that these are things we're thinking about, and getting some input from the people in attendance. I'm certainly open to, and seeing if
Seeing how it
people
goes.
say, but, no, you shouldn't, or what a great idea,
Right.
because I don't think that my personal opinions are what are supposed to carry the day here.
Well, no, but this is one where if that person isn't helping you in what you need to do, then we got the wrong model for this.
For the
Otherwise,
position,
how are we gonna do this?
right,
I mean, how are we gonna get all this stuff into the digital format?
Right. I see once we have that established as a not very time consuming thing, that each person, whether it's Celia, whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's Ariana with the final newsletter document, can just upload it to where it belongs. That's gonna be time consuming to get it gathered and in place, but then the maintenance of it
Yeah.
shouldn't be very time consuming, right?
Well, you would think, yes, but,
It does require some administration.
Yes.
The time will go down, but I believe even BAIP has some paid support.
Do they?
now. I believe so. Could be wrong, but at least a few years ago, I know they felt the need for that.
Okay,
And they are the absolute model of neighbor to neighbor.
Yeah, it's
volunteer.
impressive, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so on the new initiatives, I would feel more comfortable making that more clearly under consideration or pending, or some language that indicates that these are not definites, these are things we're considering.
okay, I'm happy to.
Perhaps they could be presented as, items not to exceed.
I don't think it's, my idea is we were going a little bit, don't put numbers out there. for those
Okay.
things At all,
Okay,
we just talk about the initiative. Say that price, there to be priced, but in our first, look at that in the aggregate, probably means drawing down on our, I want to call it surplus, because it isn't surplus, in our assets by about, I think it's $6,000 now. And so,
Mhm.
and, what about the couple others that are here that we haven't, people are comfortable with the, trying to organize a couple of meetings on,
Definitely,
okay,
I think that's what we're fundamentally about.
right. What about the issue of consulting advice for security enhancement? You know, let me tell you what I think the sentiment is around that I've heard. I haven't heard anybody who's, enthusiastic about having a big investment into security issues.
I actually had a conversation with someone who used to be a board member. It's a discussion for another day, because I was talking to him about the 501c3 versus 4 question. And mentioned to him that now we're not operating the guard service as a reason for changing our status. And he was very disappointed to hear that not only did we not have it now, but that we were thinking we didn't need it anymore. He was all in favor of having the same mobile school guard service. And I know there are people who do. We, by and large, I think, don't.
Yeah,
But I wouldn't assume that we speak for our population. I think that would be an error.
Well, it might be interesting to bring it up and see what kind of response there is to that.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
okay, yeah. I mean, I think that the only way we're gonna get there is by having a consultant or somebody
Right.
who tells us,
Right.
what the options are and what they're gonna cost and.
Right.
the rest
Keeping it
of
as a
So,
possible thing we could involve ourselves with seems all right to me.
okay,
Shouldn't we do it because we've always done it that way?
That's what I've been to Jamaica so many times, and we've always done it that way.
Well, I think the other thing that needs to be brought out is there's been a tremendous investment among individuals in terms of cameras
yeah,
on the street that has really completely changed the dynamic of
That's right.
security on
Mhm.
the block. So it not only is overall the crime a fraction of what it was when it was clear that a guard service would be helpful, but there's been individual investment by almost all buildings in our association area. Towers that has probably contributed dramatically to further decreases in the crime problem.
Right. And I don't know whether one consultant can give us answers to all of the relevant questions. But as I was thinking about it, and I had a discussion, maybe it was when you and Ethan and I met, is I don't even know whether legally we, the Block Association, can install cameras.
Right, well, we probably don't have to because they're already
Are there
operating.
enough?
Well, that would be part of the
Right,
analysis.
it's another
that-
thing we would need to find out.
That's,
Yeah.
would be part of the analysis that we would hire somebody to, how many cameras are they? Could they be pulled into a network that could be centrally monitored? So could we, if security is a concern, could we be, could it be done much, much more efficiently?
Mhm.
Because the inefficiency of the guard service was overwhelmingly evident in the recent years that
The cost benefit analysis there was terrible.
it was terrible. It was really only a few hours a day effectively and
And
how
the amount of
effective.
labor that we all had to put in to raise the money to pay for the service, that really wasn't very effective. No.
We should
Okay.
also though understand that the only information we have so far on this is that every one of those security cameras in a building is a different operating system.
Right,
And so there's no way you can just, install something that transmits the
Right.
stuff.
well, they're technically it's feasible, whether or not.
Right, and it may be that with an investment from us, buildings would be willing to convert to something that could be coordinated. We don't want to get too much into the weeds to how to make this work.
That's why we needed it.
That's why we may need a
I
consultant,
think we needed it right.
right, and keeping it as a budget
Yeah.
thing we're considering, no problem,
Okay.
for me. Anybody else?
The only other thing I think that's worth saying, something just a bit about is that we've made a decision that we're gonna get liability insurance for the.
Yes, that belongs on there.
And that's important because when we have these street events or other kinds of things,
Yep. And in fact, Shoria, when we met with her, we discussed getting insurance for that day. Just so we know that's separate and apart from the policy that we're discussing.
Okay, so we'll,
Yeah,
how much time you want to devote to this on the agenda?
as much as you need and as little as possible.
Well, tell us your home.
The meeting starts at 7. I think we need to be out of there for sure, no later than 9. That's a long meeting, but we have to give Sean time. And I have 3 50-year candidates to introduce, so that's gonna be 15-20 minutes.
So I think it sounds to me like something like 20 minutes.
Tops, yeah,
Does that include Peter?
Peter, that means gives you
you get 6.
six
But that's the one.
Talk fast.
Okay, so I've thank you, Gary, that all sounds very good to me.
Okay.
And very thorough, and I appreciate your thoughtfulness
So we'll see
on the
whether
topics.
we can actually agree and work with it for the next year. So, I mean, it's.
Right. The next agenda item I have is introduction and induction of the 50-year residents. I've interviewed, it's 3 people, 3 inductees, but 4 people because one is a couple. They wanted it that way. It's so funny. One person is a solo, single person. One person has a husband, but he moved in later, so she didn't want him included with her. She wants him included by himself when he becomes eligible I think it's next year. And the other couple I interviewed wanted to be inducted together, so fine, whatever.
As long as he excludes her. you're good.
And they've all been very interesting, and as far as I know, all of them will be attending the meeting.
Does time in Jamaica count against the 15 years?
If I added it all up, it might. So, and then last on my agenda is election of board of directors. We agreed earlier to include Ethan on the slate. We are taking Komal off, and I have heard from Herb that he is not running for reelection. And I have not heard from anybody interested in becoming a board member, other than Ethan. Does anybody have anything more to add to the annual meeting agenda?
Yes, only logistics. So in terms of voting, we had talked about
Yeah,
being at the door.
and both Ginger and Celia have agreed to do that, and Anna has confirmed that they have a table for us.
Okay, but what they need in front of them is the latest, most accurate report from Kamal, hopefully, with who is donated in the last calendar year, right? We would say a year going back to last April, right? Is that not, or do we say 2023?
I'd say both calendar year 2023 up to and including now
The last 3 months,
of 2024.
yeah, first quarter.
Right.
So we'll need that from Kamal, and they'll need it in front of them so they can check it off.
Right, and I think having the newsletter there, so you can look
Right,
it up
the
by
newsletter
building
for them
address.
may not, I mean.
It's
usually-
outdated.
Well, and sometimes things get full off for some reason. I mean, I would err on the side of including some of that. So they would have to, and then, oh yes,
I made these. And I have cut them into sixths and laminated them. So anybody who is eligible to vote, Ginger and Celia can give one of them to the person who can then hold it up so we can count votes.
That's very
Good.
she's such.
And if I could remember where in my apartment they are, we'll be all set. I made them way in advance so it would be done and
So,
I think we should honor the logo artist, because I love the thing with it.
Clark Kellogg, who used to live on the block but
Wow.
moved years ago.
he designed it.
Yeah,
So sweet.
isn't it great?
So the other part of the voting is the online part. So if they zoom in, they can vote. If they're just watching on YouTube, they can't. So are you monitoring? Do we have a person who's monitoring that?
But you're gonna
The
be
chat.
doing the tech.
Yeah, I
Right?
guess I would be.
So could you take care of determining, we'll supply you with the same lists that Celia
Yeah.
and Ginger have, who in the Zoom is eligible to vote, and then you can tally their votes and we'll add them into whatever in-person voting there is.
You can hire somebody to do it if you want.
And this week, Rich, we should go over and
Yes.
check out the internet.
Before
Screen,
Tuesday, okay.
Yeah.
So should we all be there like it's half an hour before or something, 6:30?
6:40, I think you're good, 6:45, it usually doesn't take that long to get everything up and running. I guess that means I should too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is the section with Sean and the section with Gary. There may be questions.
Mhm.
right? So we want to put a time limit on that.
Yes,
Okay,
like 5 minutes worth.
Okay.
Done.
all right.
Okay. Any other thoughts about annual meeting?
Since Sean is likely to spend a good amount of time talking about trash and containerization. Could we include the little reading list, maybe including the New Yorker article in the?
New York Times article.
The New York Times article. I read that before I got out of bed this morning, I want you to know.
Which one, the New York Times or the New York?
The New York Times one that Peter sent earlier.
That was a New Yorker.
The one
Yeah.
about just petition?
Yeah, that was the New Yorker?
That was
Yeah.
the New
No,
Yorker.
No,
the one-
you're right.
What I'm thinking about is, I've been thinking of the New York Times that had
The one that we
Yeah.
circulated.
Earlier,
Yeah,
there
that's
was,
great.
drawings and other things.
Yeah.
For the streets.
Yes. there was a West Side Spirit, which had a picture of the containers that are on 104th Street,
Mhm.
the New York Times and the New Yorker. Those pretty much get, and Sean Abreu is quoted in each one of those. He's, as active as anyone in the effort to transform sanitation.
So you're suggesting hard copy?
No, I think if in the links, if he's, it's.
I think a hard copy is a good idea. If
okay.
you don't mind.
No, I don't mind, but there's the copyright issues and all of the.
No, I don't mean printing the articles. I
Oh,
would just do a little card of here are some useful links if you would like to
Oh, of
learn more
course.
on this
Yeah,
topic.
yeah.
sure. Although they're pretty ugly.
Yes.
So,
the links are-
I have to tell you that this, if they were to do what they show in the New York Times, plans and other things, we would
The
have,
parking
we would have
consequences.
even set aside the parking, it'll take off a very large fraction of the parking, but our entire streetscape's gonna be garbage.
Yeah. No, it's true.
I
Where
mean,
the
it's
big
gonna, you
buildings
walk
are,
down the street and
Yeah.
it's garbage, the garbage things.
it won't be
And-
plastic
I mean,
bags.
arguably it is already, it's just
Yeah.
a matter of different,
No.
I mean, it's a
These are-
permanent,
These are big items, these
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that they have,
I know.
Depends.
they're like 6 by 8.
I was hoping that they could do something aesthetically so they don't look as bad.
Even in Europe where they have a lot of, places you had to take your garbage down and put it into one of several containers, all that kind of stuff. And some of them, countries have designed some very nice looking things like that. But nowhere is there the kind of,
Density there.
concentration of them they're talking about here. It's this, New York will not be what New York is like today.
Right. How they're gonna do it is really one of the interesting questions that I'm sure everybody would like addressed.
If you would like to collect all the links into one email
Sure.
or something, I would imagine that Ariana, the newsletter designer, could make it into some little attractive card we could get from the page and just have
Your
them.
point is that it's an endless link,
It-
right? It's
That's the
Or-
problem. Some of these links are very lengthy.
Yeah, so alternative
So-
is we can have a separate sign up sheet. Have a clipboard and have people who want to receive the links. Give an email address. It's another way for us to
That's
accumulate
great
email
idea.
addresses.
Right.
And
they can
then
check
after
off.
the meeting,
That's a much better way.
we will
to
send
do it.
them.
Yes,
Fine.
yes.
Okay,
So,
So it'd be check if you would like the article, the sanitation
can you
article.
put it together?
Yes, I'll do that for you.
make one thing and then after the meeting, we will send it to all. All right. Annual meeting, any further thoughts?
Have you gotten any RSVPs?
I have gotten emails from 3 people saying they would like the link. Rich, will the link be the same as what we use for this meeting, or are you setting up a separate link?
it's whoever sets up the meeting. We can just set it up in Zoom. I'll do that. I can do that right now.
Does it need to be a different link than the one we ordinarily use?
I don't know. I'm not sure how that works.
It doesn't hurt to have
Okay.
its own specific one, right?
Yeah,
No.
it's probably better anyway, because if we're publicizing it,
have it
I
be
don't know that we want.
drop-ins at other times.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, we welcome them, but if it might get
we're actually
distributed
not
more broadly.
emphasizing the link, right?
No, we're just sending the link to people who have requested
After
it.
she gets.
Okay.
the RSVP.
Yeah,
All 3 people who I've received requests.
Excuse me, are these requests to run for office or to be admitted?
To get to.
To just
go
have the
on
link to
Zoom.
attend the meeting via Zoom.
Okay.
All right, good job. We've covered everything in our agenda for tonight. Under executive session, I had put bylaws. I don't think we want to get into that now at 8:45, but maybe we could agree on a date to sit down and talk about bylaws outside of our regular meetings. So perhaps something, our meeting in May is not until the 14th, so maybe something the week of the 6th. What a week out. I can do the 7th. If we want to meet here, we could ask Ray.
What day of the week is it?
That's Tuesday. I can also do Monday. The 6th, does Monday the 6th or Tuesday the 7th work for anybody for bylaws? Of May.
6 does not work for me.
So it says it could be-
Okay. 9th,
No. The 8th is, I can do,
I have tickets for something.
yeah.
We could look at after the meeting, I suppose. The week of the 20th,
This is,
May.
is May, yeah.
it's a really bad week for me.
Oh, this is, I'm looking at May too, sorry. Wait a minute, let me go back. Actually, I'm clear any time on the,
Which week? The 20th?
You know, what we could do is one of those, you know, those polls when you give a bunch of dates and everybody.
Doodle.
Doodle.
I don't know how to do
I
that.
know how to do it. I
Yeah.
can do a doodle thing.
yeah, let's do it. I have a bunch of, I'm away from the 17th to the, maybe even from the 16th through
Which month?
the, in June, in July. No, normally in
I
July.
don't know why.
June.
Can't think about you. I was hoping sooner than that, but
All right,
I suppose
I'll send out, we'll
Yeah,
do a doodle.
maybe
thing.
we can find something.
Generally Tuesday or Wednesday nights are okay for people.
Yeah, better.
trying to, Monday's fine for me too. I don't think there's a problem here if we want to use this space.
Well, let's see if we can come up with. date.
And anybody, if it turns out that we can all meet on one date, but one person can't, we certainly can take your comments. Like Rich last time sent me an email with his comments, which I read and incorporated into the most recent draft. We can still have your input and take it into account that way.
Okay.
All right. Other things we need to address?
I have a request. I'd like to have the name of the new person in charge of the Columbus Amsterdam BID. And I'd also like to have the name of the person who's doing Park to Park, following up after Bella Gallo.
Sure. So.
And that, I guess I could get that by email if.
Or
you know.
Peter can tell you right
I-
now.
I can tell you now, and I can follow up in the email. The new executive director is Daniel Bernstein.
Oh my God.
And I was hoping that was Sarah Yasmin Mazuri, that I could introduce you to her tonight by inviting her here, but she was driving back from Buffalo where they were watching the eclipse. So it was not to be. It's she's a neighbor of Gary and Eliza's, and it says Sarah Yasmin Marazzi Sassoon, and I will send you the spelling, so you'll have that.
Thank you. And her, I have it. Sarah with an H at the end.
Yeah.
Marazzi is M-A-R.
Sarah, you're making Sarah Yasmin, Yasmine. Marazzi Sassoon is her last name.
M-A-R-A-Z-Z-I
Correct.
hyphenate Sassoon, 2 S's, 2 O's. And her email address is Sarah with an H.
Wait, hold on 1 second. Should I stop the video? It's public info.
Yeah.
I don't know that anyone's watching, but
You want to do this by email and?
Sure,
Okay.
I'll give it to you by email, both
Right,
Danielle
okay.
and Sarah.
should we adjourn so I stop
Yeah.
the video?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we're done with it.
Somebody has to make a motion.
I move that we.
Somebody has to second.
I second.
Anybody on Zoom have anything more to say, Ginger?
What time do you want us at the annual meeting before it begins?
6:40, please.
Thank you.
And Sharia already signed out?
Yes.
Okay.
Ira is on.
Say it again.
Ira,
Oh, Ira's with us. Hi,
yeah, I
Ira.
don't know if he's still listening, but
Hello, I have nothing to say.
Okay,
all right, I'm
Thanks for
stopping the
coming.
recording. I'm stopping the Zoom.
I'll send you the link for next week's meeting.
I remembered, I'm gonna bring the banner,
Yes.
right?